Hello everybody, my name is Mark LePage. I'm the Product Manager at Ordnance Survey for our network portfolio. I wanted to give you an update today on the Highways product that we have been in development with over the last 6 to 12 months, or even longer for some of you that have been involved from right from the beginning. So I wanted to give an update about where we were, and it starts to be sensible for us to talk about where we were with our portfolio. So in the beginning, we had our Ordnance Survey MasterMap Integrated Transport Network, which was our network plus routing information, and we're looking to what we can do to replace that with OS MasterMap Highways network. We've also got other networks such as Urban Paths there, which is a walking type application, and the data in that will really aid sort of pedestrian usage about what is a footpath. We also last year, in around the June time, released the OS MasterMap Water Network, which is a water navigation that we started to work with Environment Agency and SEPA to really have a look at how water underpins the country and can be used to help to predict flooding. We've also got an internal rail network which we use to derive and help to feed some of our detailed and derived products in that. So you see within Topo there's rail information, and you see within VectorMap Local and VectorMap District rail information which we start to derive. And we've also got the detailed path network, which was released also last year as well, to really aid the leisure navigation users to how they may be able to look at leisure usage planning and how they may be able to route across national parks. So we put that data out for all national parks. Together that portfolio really makes up the network portfolio, but really today we'll be focusing on what is OS MasterMap Highways network, but we'll also talk about one of the open products there as open roads as well. So we'll really start to sort of look at how we've been creating open roads from OS MasterMap Highways network product. So roads are important to the British economy. They really start to invest a lot of money into the road network and infrastructure. It's one of the UK's biggest assets that we underpin. The amount of money is just vast about how much money local authorities and central government invest in funding towards those things. And that's one of the real big drivers behind the OS MasterMap Highways network, is to try and give government consistent common answers. And I'll come on to a bit more about that. So really, OS MasterMap Highways is a story similar to addressing. In the marketplace previously, there were two data sets, as you will see on this slide, OS MasterMap ITN layer and the National Street Gazetteer provided by Geoplace from the local authorities. And really it was starting to be confusing to our customers. So on one hand, if you wanted to route from A to B, you'd use the Ordnance Survey ITN layer, and it would give you information about how do I get from A to B, where am I, what's this name on the street plate that's plastered on the side of a wall or freestanding. And that was all very useful to know, but it sort of started to get a bit confusing about if you wanted to know definitive road names, you have to go to the NSG, or if you wanted to know about any of the special information on that street or about its planned closures such as market days or marathons that were on once a year and stuff like that, you'd have to go over to the NSG. And so the real problem came is when actually you wanted to know, well, how do I route from A to B, but how do I know what the definitive name is or when it's going to be closed or any of those types of things. And our customer base was really out there saying, actually, I need to try and figure this out by combining two data sets together, and that's actually really hard and quite difficult. So what Ordnance Survey did is they combined those two data sets together to release the OS MasterMap Highways network to actually really take the pain out of that combination for the customers and for your end usage. So really the problem continues as well. So what we were saying is if I had these two data sets and I was using one to identify the road length, I would have a different road length from the other data set from the ITN and the NSG. And really from this diagram, as we can start to see, the gap that was starting to widen between the ITN and the NSG. And really this caused problems, especially if you were in a central government department, when you're trying to say, well, how do I understand how many cycle lanes there are? How do I understand what the capacity is and where are all the C roads? We really struggled to sort of combine and tell any consistency those pieces of information. So an example, in road length, I could go to the National Street Gazetteer and find I've got 100 kilometres of road. I could go to ITN and find out I've got 98 kilometres of road. That uncertainty always made it quite difficult for central bodies to really try and understand or try and give an authoritative answer about the network. So by joining this together, we would take information from those authoritative sources and put that against a good defined geometry from Ordnance Survey and create a data set that government can really get the best of all worlds or all combinations of people that combine data sets. So how are we doing this? Well, as I said, much like addressing, we really combine the data sets together. We get data from authoritative sources such as Highways England and local highways authorities, but this could be any authoritative source about their data, and we continue to get that. We source that through geoplace, like we would the National Street Gazetteer, but we source that from them in a slightly different guise, and then we combine that against Ordnance Survey's geometry data to create the products that you see there. So we really create a linear network model to support both applications of asset management and routing. We also add in along the way other data from third parties, so we can go in there and get data from the Office of National Statistics. We could get data from about marker posts. We could get data from any third party source, speed information, lane information, whatever that may be, to really start to meet those applications. So really we're creating a future for Ordnance Survey to be able to combine and attribute linear network data to create a single view of the network across GB. So our main propositions really around this fall, as you can see on the slide above, but there are also more that we aim to uncover as we go through this. But really, as I start to say, is for the public sector, it's about joining all of those authoritative sources together to give a single definitive view, or authoritative view, sorry, of that data. And that's a real strong point. And what we aim to deliver is a lot more integration and combined effort of local authority and Ordnance Survey data. It's a real interesting position that we find ourselves in with this authorities data. So the way I describe it is, I've got a view on a famous celebrity, and I have my own views on that person. And it's only when I discuss my views with another individual that we start to really uncover some information about that person and who and what they're actually like. And it's the same here with road networks. We really start to uncover more about a road when you discuss different points of view or different aspects about a road than just any one singular view. And this is exactly what's happening as we go through our data from local authorities and combine that with the Ordnance Survey data. We really start to uncover much more than either one organisation ever really knew or understood about that road network. So we're really uncovering some really valuable data about maintenance and ownership and all of those things. So we also really help the emergency services in how do you get to the right location at the right time. So having a better understanding of that road network will allow users to better position their emergency vehicles to help them get to where the incidents are and where they need to be positioned based on historical evidence. So by getting that better understanding and better communication going, we can really start to aim those things. The utilities were aiming to really support and underpin their streetworks applications by saying, okay, we've got some really good geometry from Ordnance Survey data and the really good information from local authorities about the maintenance responsibility of that network. So we can really start to help streamline some of the utilities organisations about how they respond to streetworks. And within all sectors, we really use the strong persistent identifier, which has always been a big push from Ordnance Survey about how we manage and integrate that data to really mean that actually the data that matters to your business you can pin to the network and manage over time. So really using those persistent identifiers to really share data out across the business. So a couple of the things that we're really getting quite excited about here is the link to addressing really is as the coordination of information from local authorities as they coordinate their addresses and they coordinate the roads that those addresses are accessible from, we really start to uncover some interesting applications about last meter navigation. And we're starting to uncover some of the things and really start to make sure that that data is accurate and that it's giving the user the answer they need. We also look at some enriched data so we can look at really know where planned closures are happening. So actually this data really gives us a benefit for those people doing routing to understand what is actually happening when for those planned closures. Not quite got to real-time closures, but we'll work for planned closures. And we can really start to push the currency of this data. So with Ordnance Survey, we can start to say, we capture that in line with our topographic data, we get on the ground within 6 months. But with this data, we can really start to look at improved currency, regular cycles about what is coming. And you see the under construction information there that really starts to tell us, these are the roads that are being built at this time. They do not appear on a map, but they are under construction, they're being built. And that can really start to help those streetworks applications. It can start to help those organisations that want to know about new works that they may want to put them into their plans for 2018, 2019 to make sure that they're ready when those under construction pieces of work come online. So really knowing about those and knowing about them from the authoritative sources that agree and implement them really starts to become a powerful proposition and really identify some key customer needs. So how are we hoping to produce this? At the 30th of March, we're aiming to go live in a soft launch for the PSMA market and evaluation terms for our other markets. But really, we're starting to follow the same principles we did with our integrated transport network. Underneath it all, we have the linear highway network, which is the link and node model, which really tells us about how the data is structured and formed together so I can get from A to B. And then above that, you're seeing the routing and asset management information that we really start to tell you about some of the things that it's broken down into. So we've got some physical properties, some rights and restrictions, where can I turn, where can I not turn, and some asset management and advisory information. So we'll come on to some of those in a bit more detail. So the asset management is about who owns that road, who's responsible for its maintenance, and that sort of information. We tried to create this as quite a modular process, so whereas before with our network data, you might have to process the whole lot and then pick out the information you want. With this, we're trying to build it in a way that actually, if you're just interested in turn information, actually you can just process that information on its own and not worry about the rest of that data. So we're really trying to get the users more flexibility and usability about how they use the data. So as mentioned, it's the link and node model that we're really starting to build across with our topographic references. And we take the road information, so this is information about the road network, such as name and numbering that applies to one or many links. So the M3, for example, is made up of X number of links, or the Lover's Lane is made up of one link, for example. So we can really start to build that model up and understand about things that happen along that network. And then we take the street information that references a road or it references an individual link level, depending on the type of information. But this is the stuff that we take from the National Street Gazetteer, and we reference back to either one or of those two features. And this is the stuff that actually comes real from the authoritative sources. And we've got a lot of sort of work that we need to be doing to sort of get common agreement about plated signs and definitive names. But this is a really good piece of work to start to uncover those discrepancies. Should Concord be with an E or without an E? Those types of examples we can really start to iron out and make sure that the end users having one definitive name that we start to work towards. And that gets quite interesting and exciting when you start to say, how am I helping government to do their job by helping them to clean up their data and actually come with one single authoritative source. We're also looking to expand this out to routes. For example, we can start to really calculate what is a strategic route, what are the types of routes. These are combinations of items in a direction, so that would be fulfilled under future scopes and models, but we really allow to build up the model to allow us to give us the most flexibility to meet the end customer needs. We've also included a grade separation features, so this is how we reference a link and how it can road can run over or under another road. So we really start to tell you how the road separates and how you can not route off of a bridge onto the road below. So we really continue that great work that we did with ITN to really make sure that information within the data means that you can route accordingly. So as mentioned before, these are some of the boxes that we break down into it. So this is a full list of the stuff that we're considering. However, as you can see here, the stuff that has been now shaded out in white will not be delivered in phase 1 for delivery March 30th, but will be considered in other phases post-March. But really what we're trying to do is, as we said, is break down this modular approach by saying under the rights and restrictions, we give you the term restrictions, we'll bring in the height, weights and width information and make sure that your access and use terms, and I've got some examples about what those exactly are, but we give you the bit that will affect for routing in those instances and allow you to route from A to B. We also look at the advisory information, so this is information that may be of use to you but not critical, so these are things like fords, level crossings, bridges, tunnels, barriers, and those sorts of things. So a toll barrier, for example, it might not affect your route, but it's certainly advisory information to know about how many barriers or gates are along your route. And then the other one is we talk about is the asset information from the authorities sources from the local highways authorities, but this is really bits about who maintains and who's responsible and what type of reinstatement the type of road needs. Really starting to bring together that authoritative single view, which is makes quite a difference. We're aiming to look at some of the physical properties of the network fairly soon in summer of 2016, which really starts to say, what are these surface types? How wide is that carriageway? Can we get the number of lanes of those information? So you see quite a fair amount of communication coming out around this as we start to help and develop the specifications for these new features that we start to see coming on board. Here's sort of quite an expansive list of the types of things, and the ones in green are no different to anything. They're just points to talk out. So we're introducing bridges and tunnels in this first release. So we start to say, what are those things along the network that you might want to know about? Always good to identify where tunnels are, what bridges are, especially for emergency responders and people that are in the industry of planning. Should I account for the height of it because it goes in a tunnel using the height data from Ordnance Survey? I need to know where tunnels are or bridges are so I don't take the ground height and just extracting that information. So it's a really good start to start introducing new features like these bridges and tunnels. As I mentioned before, the link to addressing is also a really strong connection that we're starting to explore and really uncover some of the powers of how we can link those addresses to the streets and really uncover some very good applications in those. The new streets, the ones that are under construction, are also mentioned, but it's worth reiterating again, is that streets under construction is an exciting proposition that really puts us in front of devices that are out there in the industry to really say, actually, we have a mechanism for identifying streets well ahead of users using them or identifying them. So this is quite a powerful proposition. And the maintenance responsibility, as mentioned, is key to this, about who is responsible for that road and really starts to underpin some of the streetworks applications we're hoping to deliver to. And then finally, the road routing information, as you'd expect with the Ordnance Survey data. How do I route from A to B with this information being key to some of the propositions we want to push forward? So some of the ways we've modelled this data, as you come to expect from the Ordnance Survey data, we use a few methods. So, for example, point referencing, stuff that happens at a node, and this could be a ford or a level crossing running through that junction. So we sort of say, here is at this point along the network, there is a ford running through, and that can be a reference from the node element. But it starts to mean that we can have multiple things, heaven forbid, a ford and a railway crossing running through the same point. That you start to say, actually, I can reference multiple, many different things to that one point without without breaking the network up for other reasons. Here's the example of a level crossing, which we can start to say actually at this point along a feature, so it can happen at a node or along a feature where we would give you the distance along that measurement to say at this point is a level crossing. So we can use point referencing to reference all types of different features and give you a view about exactly where those features sit. We can reference objects along a link at that point. So here we've got traffic calming, speed humps along there, which we start to say, actually along this whole section of the link there, we have got traffic calming from end to end for that geometry. Then also we can put through these items with direction. So at this position along the link, we've got a road sign that says no access to motor vehicles. So what we can do is start to tell the user the direction in which this sign is applicable and the position at which this sign starts. So there may be a property, maybe in this example 0.3 meters, but there may be a property at the start of the link that you can get to before the sign kicks in, and that's worth knowing about because you can then get access to that property for deliveries or for driving down there, which you may not be otherwise able to do if we were to put the information on the whole link. We can also start to add the one-way direction into the data as before, so we can start to say along this whole section of the road there is a one-way in direction of the geometry of the link below. So we really can start to drive and tell you the information about a section along a road or along a whole road to give you the information that you need to enable for routing and other principles. There may also be information which you can access along multiple links. So in this example here, we've got a no left turn or a no turn in the data, and effectively we're saying that if you are traversing along this section of the link and onto this section of the link, there is a no turn in these directions. And no U-turns can be up to multiple links, so they could be 3 or more links, and you can imagine at a really complex junction you could be 4 or 5 types of links. But we would tell you the direction of each one of those links, and we would tell you the combination of those links to make up the no turn information around that, so you can really start to make sure your navigation systems have the correct information. So as I mentioned before, we are going live on March 30th to the soft launch to the PSMA market. This will be a GB data set that's authoritative information across England and Wales. So we've combined in the first instance the data for England and Wales. We have the combination of Ordnance Survey data to cover that for the whole of GB. And we look forward to actually working with Scotland to make sure we can integrate their data into this application as well to give us a GB definitive set of authoritative information. So we released the integration of the NSG and the TRSG to the PSMA in a soft launch, and we make this available for evaluation and developer terms to the rest of the markets to really start to understand what this data can do and what it can serve. So we've been in the stage of really rapid development over the last 6 to 7 months to really get this new product out the door. You will have seen some sample data coming out at the April 2015, and we've really started to take the feedback from the customers on that and really push this development in the last 6 to 7 months. So the reason for understanding those developer terms is there is a piece of work, as you can see from the next third bullet point, is that this is a challenging piece of work, and it's really uncovered a lot of things that neither of the organisations between Ordnance Survey and local highways authorities really understood would come out. And so there's a bit where we work with this community over the next 6 months to really make sure we've got the best data set that most organisations can agree on to make sure that those commercial propositions are viable and sustainable for the future. So we think we're a long way there. There's just a final few points that we need to work together to ensure. And these are some of the challenges that you'd expect to see when joining these two data sets together. Have we called the road a road the same thing? And those are the final pieces of the puzzle we're trying to connect before we take this out to the wider community. However, saying that, we've ensured that we have shared this out with the community. There's been opportunities for all customers to get engaged with this program, and we've had a lot of feedback and input from you as customers towards. And now we really start to embed that in the product that we're launching at the end of March 30th. Really, what's our major driver in 2016 is to make this sustainable product go live, as I said, by March 30th, and really build on a strong base, a strong foundation. So as you saw, we mentioned that we're building this system to be able to incorporate third-party data. And that's one of the key drivers for us. So actually, quite easily, we can start to extend this as we find good business reasons to do so. We're actively engaged across Scotland as well, so we're really seeking their feedback and input, which is great, and we're getting some really positive views on that, so it's a great collaboration with them. And then eventually, beyond that, we actually look for the removal of both ITN and the National Street Gazetteer in a longer term to say, how do we have this as a sustainable product that meets both of those requirements? So not to confuse that with the local street gazetteers, but certainly the National Street Gazetteer, we start to aim to meet the needs of that community. We also got a fast-paced movement of increased attribution. So we look at what more things do we want. We talked about a few of those ones in the white box earlier, but how do we get the new things into this data set? So you'll see some quite fast progression in this data set to say, look at new items that we're trying to include. And that's why that modular approach becomes very important, because what we can start to do is say, that's the base. We add to that base without really affecting the foundation layer in that instance. We add more and more data to that, but it doesn't ruin or break the solutions that our customer base are creating now, because we're extending that information out. We're looking at delivery frequency of this of being 1 month to meet current demands. So it's always nice to know that I'm going to get this data at regular intervals every month. We really start to drive that for existing customer base and to make it easier for users. So some of the value propositions that we start to see really start to uncover in the road networks across our portfolio. We can really start to see that Highways has a large amount of unique selling points for the customer base that makes it quite a strong proposition in that sense. We've got, as I said, we've got a roadmap of what's next. We've got quite a lot going on. So we released a new version of Open Roads back in October, and March this year's 2016 is a big month for us. So we start to launch to the PSMA and other markets for evaluation developer terms to help you understand what you're getting from the data to build business cases and really develop applications for your customer base and make sure that you know the data is meeting their needs, really. In April, we will be going out with some feedback about what to do with urban paths and how to integrate it. So one of the main feedbacks has always been trying to topologically structure the data. And really, we're starting to gather your views more formally on this about how you would like to do that and whether it makes sense to split toys. So we're starting to come out with that in April. And then in October, we're going to come out with version 1.1 of Highways, which actually looks at more information as we described in the white box, and some of the commercial terms start to come online once we agree that with the partner community over the next few months. That also coincides with the OS orders online coming in through the online delivery mechanism to make sure that you can get all your data from the same place. We also in October want to look at the Open Roads lookup. I'm going to talk a little bit about Open Roads now, but really the combination of how I can capture data at a large scale within Highways and how I can publish data to an open community via the OS Open Roads data set. And that's really quite an exciting proposition, which I'll just touch on now. So I couldn't really leave about promoting our sister product, which is Open Roads. So with OS MasterMap Highways network, we really start to look at what the open product really is, and we've created this in sympathy with the OS MasterMap Highways network. So these are some of the things you find in it. In an open product, you find the road name classification, length, structures, some structures within there in the classification, really to start to build up some just general view about what the road network will be like. And the level of detail we provided actually is quite outstanding, to be honest. We've created a 4-meter generalization of the OS MasterMap Highways network, and we've actually included no routing information in that because that would be one of our unique propositions that we don't want to give away. However, the road geometry is so vastly available within applications nowadays, we start to say, actually look at the amount of detail we are given. So as you can see at the top part circle of that image, the generalization just clips the edge of the carriageway, but it gives you a good generalization of that road network. And the same down the bottom, there's not much geometry differences between the detailed product and the open product. So really we can start to use this to do things like accident statistics, crime statistics, what's happening on the network. So government can publish all of this open data in line with this data set that people can start to use to really understand what's happening in an area, really uncovering and unpicking lots of data. Some of the features that we've got within it, some of the attributes, we start to say is the classification formal way. So we give you name and numbering, we're to give you the classifications of items to say it's an A road, it's a B road from Department of Transport's classifications, and really start to topologically structure that. But as I said, without the routing information, walking analysis is quite useful. However, drive time is a bit harder or virtually impossible. And the main question for that, the main point for this is in October, as we mentioned, is the lookup between the premium product in Highways network and the open product is a real exciting time for us, and we really hope the government starts to publish lots of open data about the road network or statistics captured on that road network, which would be really quite valuable and quite exciting. And that's it from me, really. I just wanted to give you that quick update of OS MasterMap Highways. The big message from us is soft launch for the product is the 30th of March. We hope that you'll come onto the website and find data and evaluate data and make sure it meets your needs. But do come to Ordnance Survey either through the Customer Contact Centre or directly to myself, Mark LePage, and I hope that we can get engaged and help you to make the best of highways in the future. So thank you for listening, and I hope to speak to you all soon.